MVP HOT6.
Radiant
They've
team
got like two of the same dog as their icons.
Templar.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, and then SpongeBob SquarePants for
Dire
Keen,
team
and then
pick.
what looks like a giant rock person for Sunbee.
Yeah.
And VP have Lil is rocking the VP logo, but G and FNG, they're doing some weeaboo stuff.
And then DK Phobos has the same like green bunny thing that he's always had, except for now he's put an eye patch over it.
Okay, sick. That guy's so good at Dota. When he was mid for what's that team called? When he was mid for
10
Navi,
seconds
I was blown away. Like his Wind Ranger mid is maybe the best I've seen. But
5 seconds
Templar Assassin.
remaining.
Last pick up here for VP. You don't actually have any real good heroes versus TA
Reserve
on the
time,
side of
5
MVP,
seconds
right?
remaining.
Yeah. I mean, Lina mid is better than TA. You can
It
win that
beats
matchup.
TA.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the refraction charges get burnt off really quickly using the
Because
Fury
the attack speed, right?
Yeah, it's actually nothing. Like the trick to beating a TA mid is not to let her snowball in the lane. Like when she has the 3 or 4 refraction charges and it costs her such a huge mana pool, you want her to refresh by whatever, soundproofing. XD, what a joke. But you can't do anything against the TA refraction.
Yeah. Casting at the same time as Toby is terrible.
It's hard. You can't.
Even in the Berlin studios, we have that Studio 2 and Studio 3.
There's no such thing as soundproofing when it comes to Toby.
No, Toby 1 Kenobi.
Toby 1 Kenobi.
Pierces all eardrums and walls.
Yeah.
Pugna is the last
10
pickup for
seconds
MVP
remaining.
HOT6 as a support here. A lot of teams have been kind of
5
playing around with the
seconds
Pugna support over the last this patch, and I think the last when Pugna was changed, where his life drain then applies to allies and gives them HP.
Yeah, it's a good change. I think it was like I don't know if you definitely casted this. I think it was like Fnatic at MLG when they did that life train thing to the Dragon Knight and made him unkillable.
Yeah.
They gave Mushi, they just kept life training onto Mushi, and I was like,
Yep.
this is ridiculous.
The worst I've seen. In fact, one of the teams ran it earlier today. I think it was like Cloud9. It was Cloud9. I've seen this combination before where you have both Pugna and Wisp, right? So you have it here on the front lines. Wisp is behind him with a tether, healing him up. And then Pugna is behind the Wisp, healing that Wisp up, and incidentally also healing up the ally that he's tethered to.
Yeah.
And it's just this line of heal that you have to, it's like you have to go around, like in in war, where you have to cut the supply lines. Like that's what you have to do in Dota in that case. Like you have to somehow flank them, cut the healing supply line, and actually take that out in order to stop that combination.
Sometimes when I look at MVP HOT6, I see nothing but like what I could have been. Like I just like I get so bitter at myself. Not even at them. I'm so happy that they're such a top team, but
yeah, they've already proven. I mean, taking a game off of Vici Gaming is definitely impressive as all hell. But we got to give a quick introduction here to everybody who's now joining us on the main stream. We have VP facing up against MVP HOT6, the first game of Blitz and I casting together. Of course, myself, Capitalist, and Blitz. Blitz, your general thoughts on these two teams? Do you have a prediction one way or the other?
MVP HOT6's lineup is really unforgiving. You don't have heroes that can tank anything. So the thing is, if you have heroes that can tank or re-engage, it generally means that you can just outlast somebody in a fight. Like VP have the ability to outlast you in a fight.
Right.
But MVP HOT6, they've got heroes that just have to pretty much YOLO in and commit. That's the thing, is that if you rupture somebody, you have to kind of fight around it. You have to like force the fight at that point. Same with a Lion. If a Lion as a support blink hexes, stuns, and fingers, then you're pretty much all in committed. You have to get into that fight. Whereas VP's lineup is a lot more forgiving because they have options. Like you can go for the split push and feel relatively safe, especially if G gets something like a blink dagger.
Doesn't that to you then give a little bit of a question mark as to the last pick Pugna when it comes to the support capabilities of the Pugna and being able to heal his allies up? It doesn't really seem valuable here because Bloodseeker and Lina are such squishy cores. You feel like you need to tank your heroes in order to really utilize that sustain.
I think I really like the Pugna mainly because you want something to follow up the Clockwork's initiation, and there weren't a lot of better options. Like Pugna drops the ward after the Clockwork hooks in, and then you get an ideal fight no matter what. Like Illidan will probably get a BKB at some point, but other than that, the people from VP, their lineup isn't the best. And if you think about it, how it applies to Rubik at the same time, like Spellsteal, you probably don't do too much damage to yourself, but everything that you do on Rubik is pretty costly.
Definitely a bit of harassment here. Sunbee is going to take a lot of damage. In fact, Villadin wants to. He could go for the dive with the second rocket barrage, but doesn't want to try and risk it. And Sunbee will be forced to blow his healing salve. He actually doesn't just run back to base. He pops that one. Illidan, he's going to eat the trees. Yeah, that's exactly what he's trying to do here. As Dire's side clockwork, what you want to do is utilize the cogs in order to force, you put a square right here, you kill the right side cog and they march through this area. If you, as Radiant side, actually kill these trees, it completely stops that, that block.
Yeah, it's just a good maneuver to do, especially in the early game when there isn't much to do, but yeah, it is pretty dangerous going in there like that. But if you're going for the bounty room, especially the top one on Dire side, then it's pretty secure. And what I really like about MVP's lineup though is the combination that they have with the Lina and the Bloodseeker. Late game, if you can Blood Rage the Lina when she has Aghanim Scepter, there's almost nobody that could stand up to that. But just be so careful, because if the Rubik steals it and counters it back, it's so painful.
Yeah, the Gyrocopter, especially kind of early on, before we see a lot of those late game items, he is pretty dependent on his BKB and may not necessarily have the stats to stand up against that kind of raw pure damage.
So G in this mid lane, look at that. So what MP's going to do is get a right-click lead on him early, and he's just going to blow as many charges as he can, because you want to pressure the TA as much as possible, especially since she's not rushing the bottle. You can get away with this. She has 2 refract charges left. So she's going to pop the salve here, but she can use refract twice. But as long as MP gets aggressive on her non-stop like this, it makes it really difficult for G to justify coming up for this. So she pops it. MP's immediately going to right-click her twice as a result of this, because of the range advantage, and just cast stun whenever he can. Just get an advantage. Like, he's even going to get the Fury Soul at level 2 so he can continue to do this.
Yeah, no need to put out the Dragon Slave when it's the attack speed going to be all the more valuable versus Refraction. And there's not really much that VP can do to make sure that G does well. They just kind of have to play passive on this mid. The Earthshaker rotation isn't going to be that valuable. Sunbee is going to take some damage. He actually is going to be hit by the Fissure as well. Illidan going for the dive now underneath the tower. He pops the cogs knowing that he's going to die anyway. Just tries to get a little bit more damage onto Illidan, but it does.
He might actually die.
He's dead. Well played. Sunbee realizing that he was going to die no matter what there, goes ahead and cogs Illidan inside underneath that tier 1 tower, and they are able to get at least a counter kill, even if he's not there for the experience.
He's going to be so dissatisfied with that, because I don't think he expected the death, but the tower just continues to lay into him, and there weren't enough creeps nearby, I guess, for him to draw off the aggro, but his farm isn't even ideal, so Sunbee, I don't think he wanted to die there, but that's the best of a poor situation. And
yeah, I mean, a tri-lane, especially one that involves a Rubik, is always going to be super dangerous for a Clockwork, because you can't depend on cogs to protect yourself.
Yeah. The thing is that Bloodseeker is pretty good against zoning out the Tusk, but I imagine that DK Phobos would have the easier time than Sunbee, but after that counter kill, it's probably pretty even. They are committing 2 supports to this, and so MVP, they realize that Forev by himself, it's not like a Gyrocopter where you can Rocket Barrage spam somebody out of the lane.
Right.
You do need 1 or 2 supports, and they're committing both of them just to zone him out. And it does mean that DK Phobos is going to have a harder time than if he was against just a straight dual lane.
This also means the supports are going to be maybe falling a little bit farther behind in experience, especially since they aren't Radiant side, where you're able to utilize a triple pull. It's just only a double pull available for MVP HOT6. In fact, it looks like, yeah, this lane's almost going to push out. It seems like the range creep may survive through this push, especially if Heen starts blasting down the creep wave. So this is actually going to push into DK Phobos now with the double range creeps.
Yeah, but what they're trying to do right now is the line's trying to zone him out, so he has to go all the way around as much as he possibly can, so he can't get any of this experience. And they're doing a good job of that right now. Like, they're just doing a good job overall of keeping the lane static and making sure that he doesn't get any XP. Typically in this meta, what you're seeing right now is self-sufficient carries that don't really need supports with them. Like, if you notice at bottom, Illidan can one-on-one Sunbee no problem as soon as he pops the Rocket Barrage, but you can't do the same thing with the Bloodseeker, so you have to commit more supports to this. This is more of like an old-school style double support lane, which is something pretty rare nowadays. If you look at FNG, he's on the other side of the map, ready for the fissure, and Lil is just going for the stack and pull.
FNG, if they get a really good block off, G can definitely go for the kill here. Do you agree with the choice to go for second level and side blades and not, say, an early level of meld, which may give you more kill potential?
I think you don't really need too much kill potential with the Mel, just because with the slow, TA or Lina has really low armor to begin with.
Yeah.
And FNG, if you're going to go for a kill, it's probably going to be with the Fissure, right? And against Alina, who's got so much range, I think going for the side blades is just fine. It's a little bit more farm heavy and defensive, but it's probably okay.
DK Phobos. Jarex has got himself in a very nice position here. He actually ate through one of the trees, and there's just one more tree left for him to be able to get a jump on DK Phobos, and sure enough, there it is. Leading with the Hex, the Blood Right's going to be able to follow it up. They already get a good amount of burst damage. Actually got the snowball off immediately after, and will be able to get some distance, but it looks like DK Phobos will still die. He just throws out the Ice Shards, same thing as he did earlier, just to try and get more damage on the enemy carry who chased him out. But of course, a Bloodseeker doesn't really care too much. And now Bloodseeker is getting to that position where, while they did have to put 2 supports behind him, Bloodseeker can still full-time jungle, which is a gigantic advantage. And he can go ahead and give up this lane to probably the, well, either the Pugna or the Lion would actually get a big advantage out of solo experience.
Yeah, the downside here is that MVP is trying to push this tier 1 tower down, but DK Phobos is already alive, and this is the trade-off. You want to take the tower, but you're going to willingly give up XP to DK Phobos, so yeah, he's going to be pretty satisfied with this trade. He's doing a good amount of harass, and almost everybody from MVP is a little bit hurt. He doesn't have any mana, and a Pugna without mana doesn't really contribute too much to the lane, and DK Phobos is going to get almost level 4 off of this tower aggression that they just used, and FNG might even decide to go up there at some point just to protect him. Yeah. Because Lion at level 2 and 3 is one of the strongest supports, because Hex lasts for so long.
You compare that to, say, the Rubik, who Lil is just doing full-time pulling at this point in time. He's already level 4 because FNG is spending so much time moving around. FNG is actually roaming a lot into the middle lane, but he's also, very importantly, stacking up this Radiant Ancients, which is a key way for a Templar Assassin to be able to get back into the game. Ever since that change-up with Sideblades and the Ancients interaction, Templar Assassin has become a much more valid mid-hero than before, because it used to be that Templar Assassin didn't have those kind of farming capabilities, or at least not nearly as strong as it is now.
He's actually doing really well in the mid lane. Like 39 CS at 6 minutes is kind of absurd.
Yeah.
You want about 25 at 5, and so for him to be at this level, it doesn't really matter what MP has, because he's gonna be so happy about this. But at top,
yeah, easy pick off there on the Clockwork. Bottom lane, Ild and Lil are able to get that pick off. Top lane, MVP HOT6 do take the tower as the reaction, though. They already brought it low enough, and honestly, BP just do not have the kind of rotational strength just yet to be able to defend an outer tower. So it's at that point in time that we'll probably see the Bloodseeker doing a lot of jungling. No need to be in lane anymore, and one of those supports can kind of take the gamble of pushing forward and trying to get that solo experience. But Heen, it is trial there to try and get out an early ward. It's a good laning ward to have, but unfortunately he got spotted out by another laning ward from VP. They actually replaced the tower essentially with the ward, and that's what gets them that kill.
That was really smart of them to do, just so that they could see when one of the supports go up there, and if it's a free kill or not, because if you don't have that ward up there, you don't really know if the Bloodseeker can rotate and pressure you, but because they know it's there, it's really hard for him to be able to go out there, and so that's a free kill for him, and MP's going to do some of the jungle stacks, but right now, G doing the ancient stacks, this is going to give him such a huge infusion of gold, and this is so important for a TA just because the items that you're going to get are so cost-effective on Templar Assassin, which is why I think we're seeing a big resurgence with TAs in this international right now, because Desolator is so cheap. It allows you to go for Roshan really quickly. She's one of those mid-heroes that don't really lose any of the lane matchups that you would expect, and so we're seeing that right now, and she's just having such a good time. Like, she's even beating the Bloodseeker in overall farm right now.
Yeah, Templar Assassin and Clinks, the 2 big Desolator heroes now. Jarex is going to be put in a bad position. In fact, locked inside with the Ice Shards. Quick snowball to be able to pull God inside. They will be able to get that kill. MVP HOT6, not much they can really do about that one. And if they're not careful, yeah, God's actually going to spot out this stack. He could go for it, but first he wants to utilize this haste rune to be able to get the kill onto the Pugna. Now he has a Decrepify, and it's going to try and TP out, but it's not going to be enough. Decrepify just doesn't last long enough. God gets the last right click for a double kill. And Virtus Pro, very early lead here. Rupture getting laid out. Looks like Forev really wants to go for this kill on FNG. Did he block out the Bloodseeker? He did. Beautiful setup. And now, looks like FNG will perfectly survive. The snowball goes out, but Forev obviously way far out.
That fissure positioning by FNG was insane.
Oh no!
Clockwork.
Shaker goes down. Clockwork. He went for the 3 levels in Rocket Flare over the level of Battery Assault. I feel like this is a pretty smart build when there's a lot of heroes on the side of VP that you can't actually contest in a 1 versus 1 inside Cogs. The Gyrocopter is more powerful with his Rocket Barrage most of the time, and Templar Assassin will usually beat you to a pulp before Battery Assault does its work. And then you've got Tusk, who just snowballs if you ever manage to get him inside the Cogs. So I feel like the Rocket Flare is a lot more valuable in this game, where 9 times out of 10 you usually see a Battery Assault first.
Yeah, the interval timing is the same whether you level it or not, so it doesn't really make that big of an impact. And having that 3rd level of the Rocket Flare definitely secured that kill for him. But what I'm a little bit concerned about right now is that Sumpy is a bit under-leveled and a bit under-farmed. DK Phobos is in a similar situation, but DK Phobos was against a straight-up tri-lane. So his is a little bit more forgiving, but FNG at top decides that he's going to smartly farm this. This is typically what you do. You give up, once you lose that tier 1 tower at top, because you don't want to be there as an offlaner, instead you stick a support there.
Yeah.
And they don't want to smoke gank FNG of all heroes, because if you can't get a tower out of it, then it's probably not worth the 100 gold investment of the smoke and the cooldown of the smoke. So this is a better move for them, is they're going to go for Lil here. It's not ideal, but it is something.
And they'll be well set up to put pressure on this bottom lane and force the Gyrocopter away from the wave. I'm sure they're not going to be able to catch him by any means, but they will just keep him from farming and may even put some pressure on that tier 1 tower. Now, Forev did go for the Hand of Midas build. Not a big surprise. Most Bloodseekers are going that route nowadays, but this kind of means he's not going to have a whole lot of effectiveness in the next 5 to 10 minutes. MVP HOT6, though, I think they've got a strong enough 4-man lineup that they can, force fights against VP.
So this is what I was talking about. When you go for a smoke, they were actually trying to go for Illidan there, but they weren't able to do so. They ran into Lil, but because this bottom lane was already so low, they were able to rotate down. And it's one of those smokes that isn't designed to kill somebody, but if it does, you're fantastic, because you're going to get the tower no matter what. Like, FNG showing himself top. If he TPs in, he'll have max 1 fissure mana, and so MVP HOT6 feel really comfortable continuing that push. And their team isn't the best at, like, their supports are really fragile, so it's not easy for them to just sit in a lane like it is for FNG, who can just fissure and TP out against a Bloodseeker. So he can actually rely on the lane, whereas MVP HOT6's supports, they have to rely on things like the tower gold, going for the smoke kills, things of that nature.
Right. Virtus Pro, in response to that, knowing that they can't really contest that bottom lane, especially after they dropped a hero, try and go for a 2-man smoke between DK Phobos and G. G decided to go for a Blink Dagger here. Now, the Blink Dagger build, obviously there's many squishy heroes. Oh, they actually jump in. They're going to be able to grab Lil, push it. Oh, Jesus, that triple ultimate's used for the poor Rubik. That's twice in a row that Lil just gets overly ganked. Well, bottom lane, Snowball goes out, but not going to be able to catch anybody there. So just the Pugna goes down. Fortunately, the Lina does escape for MVP HOT6. MVP HOT6 are still in a good position to take the middle tower, though, so they can still make the better of this trade-off. They're definitely knowing that they can take early control of the map.
Yeah, the reason why that 3-man ultimate is fine, and a lot of people might look at that and say no it's not, is because there's a good chance that they can get the tower.
Oh, Lil, he TP'd in straight into the Cogs. The TP out is there from the Clockwork. Jarex is going to be caught, though. All of Virtus Pro center up to defend their tower. Sunday actually couldn't complete his TP, gets canceled, and will end up going down to Illidan. So a 5-man out from Virtus Pro will allow them to be the ones to take the middle tower instead.
And it's actually really interesting that MP decides to go for the Aghanim Scepter first. I guess they want the synergy between the two. Or actually, he's going to go for probably the Bloodstone, considering that he's got the Arcane Boots and the Sun.
Oh, ball. He's going to need to make a save here. Nice Recrepify, but the Endless Slam does extra damage. He'll beat up Pugna, and there's the Walrus Punch to finish off the Bloodseeker as well. The TP's come in. In fact, MP might be in some trouble. God, underneath that Tier 2 tower, already losing his Refraction, decides to back up, but MVP definitely can't be too aggressive here. The Fissure comes out, God immediately blinking onto MP, and will be able to get the kill before the Impale lands. MVP HOT6 just a little bit too disjointed in their plans to defend their towers. They come in one by one, lose 3 different heroes in the process.
They just don't have the type of lineup that can disengage after, because VP have one of the best chasing lineups in the game. You've got Illidan, who can always back you up with the Rocket Barrage, Distance Flat Cannon, and the Call Down. You've got a TA that opted to go for a Blink Dagger first. I think if she was on Dire side, she might have gone for the Deso, but you just want the ability to follow up things like your Earthshaker, things like your Tuskar Snowball, and you're seeing it pay off right now because MVP just can't disengage. They don't have any defensive abilities, like something like the Fissure. Like once they get gone on, they're pretty much committed at that point for the fight, and that's what you saw right there. And then they decided to go in 2 at a time, thinking that the tier 2 was going to be enough, but you've got heroes like that can fight from a distance from VP, and so it's way too difficult to disengage there. And MP, you should head towards mid because they need a 5-man down this tower. Like, they need to grab some of the momentum back, and this is a lineup that's designed to be aggressive.
He gets blown up as he tries to go for the tower, but that gets denied. He's left with just 1 or 2 HP, and Lil will gladly take that away from MVP HOT6. 12-5 now. Virtus.pro, I mean, they started off things pretty well, but MVP HOT6 at one point in time kind of pulled the game back into even territory, but the last few minutes have been all about Virtus.pro and their positioning.
Yeah, lucky for MVP, this score, it's only a difference of 2,000 net worth, so as long as they don't tilt or anything like that, they should be okay. But they can't just keep giving up their Pugna, they can't just keep giving up their Lion, because yeah, it's a support, but the way that you should really think about it is a support's going to have much less time to catch up into the game. Like, a carry or a mid will always have the jungle to fall back on, or you'll dedicate a lane to their farm. But when it comes to a support, it's so difficult to just guarantee that level of farm. And this top tower, you notice how low it is? They decide to go for the smoke here. If they can catch somebody, great. If they can't, they're going to go for the tower push before they can respawn. And MVP is doing the same thing at bottom right now because they anticipate somebody going down there to defend that huge creep wave. So this should be a trade where VP get the top tower, but if G's not careful, this could just mean a death for him.
MVP HOT6. I almost thought they were going to go for the tier 2 at bottom lane just to make the trade-off. Tier 2 for tier 1. I think that's the point you were originally making.
Yes.
And, okay, they're going to go for it now. I guess it's just a little bit too tempting to see like a juicy mid hero, especially a core there, and not consider at least going for him.
You got to ignore that and just say that's a DK Phobos Tusk who's already behind. It's not going to give you the best net worth advantage. Going for this tower, which is kind of low, is probably the better play. Because that's the thing, is that when you go for a smoke like that, it's not intended to get a kill. You're intended to get an objective here. Like, if you notice at top, they're probably not even going to get that because they just rotate mid for it.
Yep. Tier 1, oh, nice deny from Jerix. Now the TP rotations to make sure Jerix will not be punished for that. They did get the tier 2 at the same time, and as you said, that top lane tower is still up. But Virtus.pro are going to be quick to go over there. I mean, they know most of the heroes teleported into the tier 2 tower. That means MVP HOT6 don't have a real direct route to get to that tier 1 in time. They can't TP.
Sunday knows they're coming. He should be getting out of here. The ward vision did spot them. They didn't smoke for this, and so this is just going to be a straight-up trade for Roshan.
Yeah, God's got the trap already laid out behind the tower. Sunbeam, he does not have a TP out. The only play he really has is some sort of crazy hook shot.
Oh, they know he's there too.
Yep, the Sigil spies him out now. There goes the trap, and Sunbeam throws out the hook shot at the end, but he knows it's not going to do anything. He bought a lot of time, though. MVP HOT6 will be able to take Roshan for themselves. Let's see whether or not Virtus.pro are actually able to defend in time. A lot of MVP HOT6 are quite low. There was mass TPs into the tier 2 tower, and God, well, he's actually got a haste rune, so this could be really big. FNG is going to be the first ones there. Now the hook shot. Oh, God, this is going to be terrible. Fissure already bringing 2 low. G coming in, able to finish off 1, 2, and Echo Slam gets laid out, and 3 end up falling around that Roshan pit, with Roche only sitting at 1,500 HP. It doesn't get better than that for DP.
G just kind of walks in and says, hey, free Aegis.
Free Aegis, free kills. That was nasty.
The problem with MVP HOT6's lineup right there is that you don't have a medallion, you don't have any way to cut through the armor of Roshan, so it just took them so long. They don't even have that many physical damage dealers because MP's decided to go for no treads, nothing of that nature, so he doesn't have any plus damage. You've got a Bloodseeker that is pretty much defensive in his build, and you've got 2 supports that don't add anything and that can't buy medallion, and so that's such a risky maneuver for them.
VP centering up for that bottom tier 1 tower. It looks like our Lion really wanted to get a pick off on one of the supports, like easy kill on the Rubik, maybe solo. No, not even the Rubik. Rubik's got a Bracer and an Urn of Shadow, so he's sitting at 1k HP. So Lion couldn't even necessarily solo him. So our Lion's just going to be hanging out there for a while, eventually TPing in, but I'm just not sure. MVP HOT6, they're not in a really good position to be able to defend. It feels like they're just going to constantly lose teamfight after teamfight, but as you said earlier on, they did build a lineup that was meant to be the aggressors. In this case, you build an aggressive lineup, but you somehow drop the ball in the first 15 minutes, and the enemy team has an advantage. What's the better play here? Do you just go ahead and give up a lot of your map control and wait out your opportunity, or do you try and force the fights anyway?
I think she's going to go on Jerix right now, who has a TP, but he doesn't have enough mana to use this, and he was trying to drag the creeps over, but FNG gonna get another solo kill as he's on a Mega Spree, but I think what you do if you're MVP HOT6 is wait out the items that you absolutely need to fight. Like, if HOT6 can grab a few items on their cores, like if Rev gets a BKB for the next fight, and if you get a Bloodstone on the Lina, then maybe you can get into an engagement. Those are probably the items that you wait for.
Oh, MP. Telekinesis up and taken out. I'm not sure what his plan there, if he was just hoping to be able to push out the wave real quick, but this build is also perhaps a bit questionable for the Lina as well, going for the Soul Booster, Bloodstone, rather than the Eul Scepter, which would have given him maybe a lot more solo killing power.
But I don't think he wanted to play the solo killing style. I think they were trying to get into team fights early, but especially when that mid-fight collapsed where they lost so many heroes, and then especially with that Roshan, things kind of just went the other way, and MVP HOT6, they don't really have the best lineup at coming back into this game because their comeback mechanic doesn't really exist. You've got a Midas on Forev, but the rest of their heroes aren't designed to be behind. Lion is a pretty greedy support. Pugna is definitely a greedy support. Like, you need that hero to have some measure of items to be able to do anything, because as we saw, when he walks forward to Nether Blast, he gets fissured once and then dies.
Yeah, especially when they try and do the Blood Rage Pugna.
Yeah,
we saw that a couple of times where they wanted to get
down.
the extra damage for Nether Blast on towers. It's just so risky, as Virtus Pro have more than enough initiation and long-range nukes to be able to bring down that Pugna if necessary. BKB is coming up soon for our Templar Assassin, who's got the Desolator, Blink Dagger, and of course that Aegis of Mortal that we saw earlier. Hasn't died a single time yet.
I think what you're waiting right now for is MP to finish that Bloodstone, and you've got one smoke if you're MVP, and that's pretty much your one real way back into the game. So you might see them just get the Bloodstone and then decide to go for some sort of counterplay, because you can't just let VP take complete map control at this point. Like, once you get those items on MVP HOT6, what are you really waiting for? Like, it's going to take you way too long to get an Aghanim Scepter on Lina. The game probably ends before that if you let it progress at this rate. So you have to choose at some point to get aggressive on the map.
Oh, for Rev. Echo slammed immediately. They're willing to pop that ultimate just to finish off the Bloodseeker, especially when they're already pushing in both top and middle lane. Now, the Earthshaker's going to go back to defend. He already used his Echo Slam anyway, so he'll try and stop the TP back of Lina, or at least protect that tier 3 tower. Meanwhile, his allies putting pressure on the tier 3 at top lane. Sunby already jumping on Illidan, who pops his BKB and now turns and fights Sunby. Sunby will go down quite easily. Jarek's already slowed down. Snowball will pull the Gyrocopter forward in order to get that kill. He trying to heal up his allies and kill the enemy with a single target focus, just not going to be good enough. Bloodseekers comes back and looks like they'll be able to take out the Templar Assassin's Aegis, but that seems to be about it. Forev can't even force this fight anymore. A 10-second BKB just did nothing for them, and Virtus Pro will back up. Pretty happy with that fight.
Yeah, they're going to be incredibly satisfied with how that went, because they were able to just dive. There was no repercussions. You even forced the, I think that was a buyback on the Lion and the Bloodseeker, and he uses 10-second BKB. Like, of all the things that could have gone wrong there, they went wrong there. Because that's what your comeback mechanic is. That 10-second BKB, getting the Bloodstone on MP, that's your best shot. So I think MVP, honestly, you just get the Bloodstone on Lina and go. Like, wait for the BKB to refresh back up on MP. Because if you just sit back and passively wait for the game to end, you're gonna give up the Roshan onto VP, and there's not a lot of locations that you want to get into a fight with. You better just go for pickoffs. I think it's the best possible option, but even then they don't have the best way to open up because they don't have a Blink Dagger on their Lion. Yeah,
they're pretty much completely reliant on the clockwork to be able to set up those single target picks.
There's a YOLO smoke, if I've ever seen one. The complexity wraparound. The old cold TI2, remember that? If you're behind, just go for the wraparound.
Jarex is desperately trying to push out that bottom lane in order to get that Blink Dagger that we previously mentioned. Virtus Pro just not quite feeling comfortable enough to go for a push. And why should they? I mean, they've got this game pretty much in the bag. They just have to play patiently and maybe wait out the next Roshan and then go uphill with the next Aegis.
Yeah, I think that's actually what MVP are waiting for. The next Roshan to respawn and then hopefully catch them into that angle. Right. Because I guess there's no better objective to go for. Like, you're not going to smoke gank and get a tier 2 out of anything. The mid tower is way too healthy. Same thing with the top tower. And getting kills right now isn't enough. So you probably wait for that. I still think they maybe should just smoke right now and try to go for something before the Roche fight. Because I feel like the Roche fight is just way too obvious.
Lil almost found a pick off on that Lion bottom lane, but a Hex TP out does get him away. He Then G is going to commit the Echo Slam. He immediately gets ruptured and force taps himself away. TP's out. He's good. The call down also zoning away a lot of MVP HOT6. In fact, it's going to get a kill on Sunby. Now they're going to pursue for more. Illidan is trying to just right-click these heroes down with the trap. He will be able to catch up to MP. Gets that kill. And Jarek's, well, healed up by the Bloodstone, will start backing himself up. Turns to go for God. Hexing him away, but now there goes the Ice Shards to try and block him back to his retreat to the Fountain. God moves forward. Right in front of the Fountain. Gets the kill. Lion was running up those fatal steps, but it wasn't good enough. And sure enough, MVP HOT6 call it GG. 24 minutes, 26-5. Virtus Pro, a very dominant victory by them.
They just completely outplayed them from start to finish. MVP HOT6's lineup, when you originally look at it, that's so unforgiving. You can't mess up. With supports like Lion and Pugna both, those are heroes that are going to naturally just have cap out at around 800 HP. Even if you decide to do the Sing Sing 5 Bracer kind of thing. And Lil sells everything and he buys 5-6 mangoes, but the thing is, he decided to build incredibly defensive